Captain Rangarajan, and take us through what is happening in Red Sea and what could be the short, medium, and long-term implications of the same for our businesses. Before I invite Mr. Rangarajan to make his presentation, followed by a discussion, a brief introduction about Captain Rangarajan. Captain Rangarajan is a master mariner with over 3 decades of experience in shipping, logistics, and trading. He has experience of sailing as navigating officer and captain across the oceans, carrying containers on ships of major shipping lines. He has varied experience of working on ships, sailing on the high seas, working ashore in port, terminal, freight forwarding, ship technical management, and trading of various commodities, agricultural and energy. Captain Rangarajan has traversed the Red Sea Suez Canal route for over 50 times as a navigator, ran ships in this route as a ship operator, technical manager, and also has have been part of several shipments through the Red Sea route and quite a few around the Cape, as well as which gives him a deep understanding to appreciate what is going on currently and what could be its ramification. With this introduction, I now invite Captain Rangarajan to make a presentation. It will be followed by discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Srivats, for the grand introduction. I think many people in this forum know because of the regular conferences you and your team have organized. Looking forward to meet many people next in Cambodia. First of all, I take this opportunity to wish everyone a very happy New Year. I think still it's not too late. Very happy New Year to you and your families. I'm happy to be part of this first trade talk of this new year. Recently, we were just chatting, me and Srivats, and he was asking me about this Red Sea crisis. This was just around Christmas we were speaking, and it had just started. And then he told that why don't you speak on this topic? So that's when I thought I can share some of my ideas. And at the same time, I don't want this to be one-sided. Once I put my thoughts, I would like to hear from some of you from the origins regarding any impact. Right. Starting just to tell you what is happening in Red Sea. What you must be hearing news articles. You know, these are Yemen-based Houthi rebels. They are supporting Hamas, and they made some attacks on some of the ships which go in that region. So that has caused a disturbance. Now, a few Maersk MSC vessels were hit. One tanker was hit, and some attempted hits were thwarted by the US military. This was the start. And then came the next step where the US military started an Operation Prosperity Guardian. They were practically wanting to escort the ships. But due to the enormous area and the warship requirement, that probably did not go down well, and still there were attacks. Now, due to this, the effect was major shipping lines. Most of them have decided to divert the vessel from this route. Initial numbers were something like 250 vessels were diverted due to the attacks. Now, just to show you what it has further. Okay, just to show you what is the impacted area. If you look at this, you will see the area is near Yemen. It's a very small area that's called Bab el-Mandab. The ships have to pass through this and then further go to Red Sea and go up to Suez Canal. Now, this particular passage has been impacted due to this terrorist attack. That's the effect. Now, just to understand where it is and what is the regular route, you can see on this map, the red color is the regular route. This is the route usually followed by vessels traversing the Suez Canal. They go in the Arabian Sea and then enter the Red Sea region The entrance is where we saw in the previous map. That's where the ships enter and go up. Now, since the ship cannot enter here, the effect is the ship cannot go to Suez Canal. So the ships, the only way to go to Europe or elsewhere is to go around the Cape. Now, just an expanded view of the area so that we can understand the impact. Now, you can see the area impacted. Like as of December 21st, some of the shipping lines had declared, they'll proactively reroute their vessels. And subsequently, I think everybody has rerouted. There are hardly any ships going through this. Now, what is the impact for us? If you look at the impact for us, first thing is the shipping lines are avoiding this route. So there is no Suez Canal route. So some of you will remember the Ever Given crisis, a ship which got stuck inside the Suez Canal and all ships were rerouted. This fiasco was there for 10-15 days and it had some ripple effects. Now, this problem is very similar but much bigger in magnitude because the Ever Given was an accident and the ship was pulled out. So it was okay. But subsequently, this problem is much bigger because we don't have any control or no shipping line has control when these attacks will be stopped, because this is something which is political. The impact of this is so like the effect of this, if you see what is happening on a regular basis, about 12% of the global trade is passing through this regular route of Red Sea and Suez Canal. This will be running into several $billion, various kinds of cargoes going through. Now, due to this diversion, the ships will have to do an additional distance of about 3,300 to 3,500 nautical miles, which, for fast container ships also, even at the speed of, say, about 16, 17 knots also, it will be an additional an oil tanker or a bulk carrier, the impact is even higher. They traverse at a much slower speed and the impact could be even 12, 13 days. When these ships have to take this circuitous route, the direct impact is the fuel cost. A rough calculation for a big vessel like a 10,000 container vessel, it can, the fuel cost can go up by something like $1 million. Roughly about $1 million to a quarter and a million. Now, this cost, if you have to spread it somewhere, then it will be have to pass on to the user ultimately. Some of the shipping lines have already imposed surcharges. To Europe, some of the shipping lines have put surcharges of $1,500 to $2,000 per container. Northern Europe, the freights have already crossed $4,000, sometimes even $5,000. Now, other routes also might face an increase in this case. So what are the indirect impacts? You see, the increased transit time will mean that the operating expenditure of the vessels will increase for the same amount of cargo. So again, it's denting the profitability. The turnaround time of the containers will increase. For example, if a container is used for, say, maybe 8 to 10 different cargoes in a round year, with these diversions, then the number of times a container is used and at the same time the vessel is used reduces for the same amount of earning. Now you can understand if they have to compensate for this, then again the freight has to increase. Europe will face a supply crisis immediately. Some of the supermarket chains have already declared that they will have material shortage. This particularly in the UK, they've already announced. The other parts of Europe also, they've already announced some supply cuts may be there and there will be delayed arrivals. January, February will be the worst months and Europe will be really disrupted with this. That's for sure. And then, there will be shortage of containers in some locations. How it happens is the container movement, depending on the global trade, works in a particular pattern. Now, all the shipping lines, they don't keep containers everywhere. Containers cannot be idle because that's their earning mechanism. Now, when this flow changes, some places might get additional containers and some may face shortage. So the repositioning cost will change. Again, this is going to be an added cost burden to the shipping line, which ultimately will be passed on to the trading community and it has to pass further down, as we all know. In addition, if you see the port terminals, due to the diversion, there could be scenario for many port terminals where they did not receive any vessel or less vessels in a particular week or two, and then the cargo gets piled up. Instead of receiving maybe 50,000 containers regularly per week, suddenly on a next 2 weeks they will receive 70 or 80,000 containers. Now this will create an operational problem, plus the importers will have to shell out the money immediately to clear. So this is also going to be added cost. And in effect of all this, you can see that it will hit all the markets down below and cause an inflation hike. This is what we can look at. Now, if we look at impact on our commodities, mainly since you're talking about Africa, if you talk about transit time, West Africa and East Africa will have minimal impact because most of the services are as such going round the Cape. So I don't see anything like an increase in transit time immediately. So minimum impact. Sudan will have maximum impact because Sudan is inside. So how the shipment will happen, and if it happens, then which way, and what will be the cost. Moderate impact will be there for Ethiopia and Djibouti also. They are outside the Red Sea, but if you look at it globally, they are just like 150 kilometers away from the attack area, and so shipping lines will not be very upfront about calling ships there frequently. So there may be reduced services that will cause problems. If you look at the freight rates, with all these problems, though the West and East Africa is not much affected in terms of transit time, overall the freight rates will increase. If you look at what is happening, one of the shipping lines, Hapag-Lloyd has sent a circular yesterday. They've already proposed an increase of $500 per container, even to Indian subcontinent and some other places. Now, $500 increase will mean something like $30 for soybean or some other commodities. So that's a big impact. So in the near run, freight rates will go up. That's something which is going to happen. Now, if you ask what will happen, how we can control, obviously this problem has to come to an end. It has to be resolved in amicable manner by talks. So I will now leave it to the forum. If you have any questions and if you have any inputs, please do share so that all of us benefit. Like you can share like things like maybe you're already seeing a freight increase, or is there anything like a container shortage or something like that. That's something which we can think of. Thank you very much for the patience. I'll stop sharing, and Srivats, you can take over.
Thank you very much, sir. That was indeed a very short but a very pointed presentation on the situation. It gives a lot of clarity. Some perspective, to begin the conversation, just as I mentioned yesterday, we were looking at the container rates from Asia to Northern Europe last year, somewhere around $1,300 to $1,400, and as of yesterday or last week, it was about 4,800 kind of dollar. Can you give some numbers to begin the conversation in terms of Asia to Europe and Asia to let's say West Coast to US and so on? So we'll start off from there actually.
Okay. How shipping lines do increase is they generally don't increase the freight as such. What they do is they add surcharges. The freight will remain almost same, but they will add surcharges. Like one of the shipping lines has added something like a emergency management surcharge, or somebody says it's a additional fuel consumption, so bunker recovery cost. Somebody, like yesterday's announcement was operational recovery surcharge. So the names can be varying, but for people in this forum, whatever may be the name, it's like an added freight which is going to impact us on a per ton basis. So just to throw some numbers, there was a surcharge of $1,500 by some of the shipping lines to Europe. So for us, whether it's called surcharge or anything else, it is an added freight. So $1,500 was the number given for Europe, and for US East Coast, the numbers were something like $2,000 to $2,500. Those are the numbers. For Africa, yesterday Hapag-Lloyd has given a number of $500 per TEU. Other lines, I am not sure. I don't have information if anybody else has up the ante now again. But given the past trends, if one line does, one of the lines does, the others are likely to follow suit, mostly because the problems are same, and for them the solutions are also same. Increase the freight. That's the only option.
Yeah, I think even in the comment, Mr. Usman has said CAC contingency charges from 500 to 1,000 USD, which is in concurrence with what you observed. So that's a comment which is coming on the chat. Quick comments about West Africa. We are going to see the raw cashew nut section starting. Somebody has asked what's a likely impact on countries like Ghana, Togo, Benin on raw cashew trade.
As I told already, one of the shipping lines has started this $500 per container already. So $500 means that's going to increase the freight by $500 for us for all commodities, for all commodities which are coming from there. And most likely other shipping lines will also go with similar quantum. Instead of 500, somebody can go to 300 or somebody can go to 700. Unofficially, you can say that these are numbers which are agreed, and they will keep it same so that it flies well. That's the way it works. But I feel it will be $500 to $600 per container increase in freight for all commodities.
Okay, but will there be any delay from West Africa in terms of transit time? Do you see delays there?
Not much. Transit time wise, not much. Some partial is possible, because what will happen, I'll tell you. Generally, when this kind of things happen, first impact will be some commodities, the shipment will come to a stop totally. Like Indian basmati rice shipments have been held back because of contractual specs and things like that. They can't reach in time, so some of the shippers have held on. When some other commodities also, some low value commodities, it may not be viable to carry on with the trade, so those shipments will also reduce. So in effect, what will happen? The ships will be left with lesser cargo. Now, how the lines counter it is, there are two ways. One is two things to do. One is they have to increase the, they should not increase the vessel capacity. They have to cut the vessel capacity. Something like what OPEC does when the demand reduces. They reduce the supply also. Now, for the shipping line, there is one more reason to reduce the supply. For example, if there are 100 ships going around the Cape, big ships, they will have to shell out $1 million per ship additional fuel expense. That will be like $100 million extra expense for the shipping line at the same time. And many ships, the cargo is already loaded and BL is already issued, so they can't ask for additional freight. So the best way is to cut some of the sailings. That will happen. One more reason also, the ships work in a particular roundabout manner where every week the ship has to be in one particular port. So what will happen is when the transit time increases, the first vessel, second vessel will get delayed. So the only way to get back on schedule is to skip one or two ports. For example, in India, they could say that, okay, instead of calling Mundra and Nhava Sheva, we will call only Nhava Sheva. Discharge all the Mundra containers in Nhava Sheva, and later on it will be feedered. Now, this kind of delays are likely, but this will not be huge. This can be up to about a week's time. I don't see major transit issues, but freight will go up.
Okay, so summary therefore is that for raw cashew, West Africa, there could be $500 increase in surcharges, and there could be minimum time delays. That's what I take away from as your thoughts.
Yes, this is just an approximation. See, again, this is totally a commercial call of the shipping lines. So I am just giving some figures which have happened in the past. If the problem is resolved sooner, then these surcharges might vanish in maybe short time. If the problem continues, then the surcharges will continue. So these are just numbers. Obviously, these are commercial numbers have to be put up based on bunkering expenses and additional port call expenses. But 500 to 600 is a number which is definitely possible.
Quick comment about Sudan, Sesame going to, let's say, Turkey or Israel, how is that route, will that also get affected?
No, that will not get affected much because from Sudan the transshipment happens in Port Abdullah in Jeddah. So and from there it will go to Suez Canal. That will not be impacted. The ships will be routed accordingly. There will not be major impact. But I don't know what practically is on ground in Sudan now. So I would not know much. Geographically, it should not be get impacted because it's on the other side.
So India, hulled sesame exports to Europe. What's your
That will face a big issue because like $1,500 straight away freight will go up. It will be having an impact of $1,500 per 20 feet as of now.
plus time delay, right?
Yes, plus the time delay, about 8 to 9 days of time delay also.
Right. We have many people from these industries. I wait for their questions. In the meanwhile, we have Mr. Ramamurthy, and he wants to make a quick comment. Over to you, Mr. Ramamurthy, please. Hello, Mr. Ramamurthy.
Yes, Mr. Srivatsava.
Yes,
Hi,
sir.
Rangarajan sir. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We met in Jordan for that sesame. We joined for lunch and breakfast at particular time now. Anyway, a few comments. What I would like to share with you after you gave a comment about the Red Sea impact, basically where the carriers are charging surcharges and all. So we have already kickstarted our negotiation with carriers for West Africa export of raw cashew, because which is going to happen. Ghana will start from probably another 2 weeks from now, and Ivory Coast is expected by mid of February. So we are already in dialogue with the carriers. And your comment about the carriers implementing a huge surcharge will definitely not impact, as I see it, on the cashew trade between West Africa and India or East Africa and India. There is an ongoing business for me from East Africa. We have so far clocked about 120 40 footers in the last couple of weeks, and there has been no additional surcharge as such by virtue of the Red Sea challenges and impact on that. Basically, we are also representing Costco at Bangalore ICD, and we have direct access to Costco systems and their pricing and things like that. Basically, what's happening is the cargoes going into Europe. Because of this Red Sea problem, we are taking a detour via Cape of Good Hope. So what's happening is when you go via Cape of Good Hope, there is an additional transit time.
Yeah.
Of approximately about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that 3 weeks steaming time is what they are collecting by way of surcharge, where the containers are already laden on board.
Yeah.
That will be collected from the consignee. And
True.
when we were having a rate of, say, about $550 for a 20-footer and $750 for 40-footer from Chennai to Europe, we were paying, we are just getting it done, and now the rates have gone up to about $5,000 per container for export to Europe. So
Yeah.
that doesn't impact, because so far as West Africa or East Africa are concerned, they don't take this route at all, number one. There is
True.
no impact on the Red Sea thing. So if at all, Mr. Rangarajan, what you got the message from Hapag-Lloyd for shipments coming into India, that would be applicable only for those shipments covering the Red Sea route or the detour they have to take via Cape of Good Hope or whatever it is, either outbound from India or inbound in India.
Point well taken, sir. Yeah, I think you're on the same page. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
Correct. Ramurthy sir, I will tell you. So far, only Hapag-Lloyd has announced the surcharge. Okay, what you're telling is right. It'll be more than happy if nobody else imposes surcharges in East and West Africa. But traditionally, if you see shipping lines, once these kind of things start, it will
I
lesser.
agree with
It
I
will be
agree with
lesser.
you.
If
They
it
are
is,
waiting,
if it is,
they are
yeah, if it
waiting for
is,
an opportunity, and with different nomenclature, they collect these charges.
that's what I told. I gave you all the nomenclature, sir. You are right. You have rich experience, so you can understand this. See, any
Sure.
nomenclature, at the end of the day,
Just,
any
just one
nomenclature,
assurance, Mr. Rangarajan, one assurance for you. I have already got the rates from Hapag-Lloyd from Ghana, where they are quoting on an average about $500 to $600 per 40-footer from Tema to India or Vietnam. And they are after me, when can I get my first booking? So there are no surcharges or any hidden surcharges there.
It's good.
it's good actually. This
yeah.
circular has come yesterday evening. Yesterday evening, I'll forward to you separately.
Okay,
If you
okay.
not, yeah,
Yeah, I
then
will do one thing. I will
good
send you the.
canvassing, sir, for you. It's a good
Okay.
canvassing. People can go to Mr. Ramurthy, get better rates. Nice, I'll come to you, sir. I'll call you.
Anyway, I will be meeting you in Cambodia.
Okay, we'll meet you.
Right, in the first of
Sure.
December.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Srivatsava, to connect me.
Thank you very much. Anybody has got any quick comments on what has been presented so far, or some ground up view on
I can see one from a comment from Usman Bhai. Transit may not increase, but port congestion vessels may skip any port calling. Yes, very good observation. He has long experience. He's right. Some of the vessels may skip some ports, and that might cause some delays. He is right there.
Sure. Anybody one thing just as a time filler, I wanted to ask, since yesterday I've been asking the same question, in this kind of volatile environment, markets are going to be even more tougher. So how do we draft a contract between buyer and seller and protect ourselves, because shipping delays are way beyond our control.
Absolutely. See, we given present day contracts, most of it is, shipment period open for like 1 month or 2 months, depends on commercially. But transit time, nobody guarantees. Okay, people do ask, okay, how much is the transit time? Even to be very frank, most people in this forum, I would not say all, but we get the transit time basis what the shipping line gives. They give a booking. You can go and track what is the shipping line declared transit time. But in reality, what happens after you ship the cargo, none of us have control, and we can't even go and ask shipping line, why this 1 day delay, 4-day delay. There are operational reasons, and you will get the standard answers. That's the general experience what we have faced. If somebody else has any other experience, they can share so that we can benefit from that.
Right. If Indian cashew kernel exporters have to pay such high freights for their exports, then why would they process African RCN at all? I think it's more of a comment rather than any questions, because these kind of things are observations. That's good. Any other quick comments? Any other observations? You can also speak. The floor is open. Yeah. We have many from Europe as well, quick comments from anybody, would be most welcome. How about Russia Black Sea transit may increase due to Red Sea? This is a question from Usman. Mr. Rangarajan.
From India, yes, it will increase. It will increase by a week, 10 days, because it has to go around the Cape and then come back. Something like 15 days increase. Even countries like Egypt will also face the same issue. Egypt, Israel, all the Mediterranean countries will have the issues. Turkey, from India, if you send the ship has to go around the Cape, enter Mediterranean from the west, and then go backwards. So it's going to be an increase of about 15 days. I was going through some statistics just to throw some numbers. I don't know how far these are true. CNBC declared something like $200 billion worth of cargo was diverted within the first week of December. These are like commercial numbers. I shared this with one of my finance guys, and he immediately threw another number with me. sir, this much money floating for another 15, 20 days, maybe $500 million will be the interest.
Yes, of course.
Interesting perspective he told me. So people will have ideas. So maybe some shares we can have, so that we have different perspectives on this. I have given a geographical perspective and a logistics perspective, and my colleagues comment on the interest. Like this, there will be a lot of things. I would like to just say one more thing. When ships go around like this, there are some areas which they have to cross, which were probably previously not covered in their insurance policy. So these ships have to take an additional war risk insurance. The premium of the insurance will increase further. That is also another cost burden. Port congestion, I think Usman Bhai pointed out. If you look at something, what we can do is what, like Mr. Ramurthy told, he has advanced bookings. Before other lines put up surcharges, maybe people in this forum can rush and take some bookings to see if they can get bookings without surcharges. But having said that, shipping lines have this habit: when they impose surcharge, the surcharge effective date is typically the day the container is handed over, not the day you're taken booking. So there is a catch in that. But still, advance booking might help in case of shortage of containers and probably shortage of space on the vessel. There, that input might help. Definitely is.
That's a very good suggestion. I think, thank you very much. It's a very common thing, but normally, we overlook that. At least in this season, it's better to be extra cautious and do the bookings. Quick question, any change in detention demurrage period?
Oh, very nice question. Thanks, Linda. This is something which is really an important aspect. Definitely. If you look at the way detention demurrage tariffs are there, the tariff keeps changing. One must be wondering, sometimes I get 21 days free time, and sometimes I get only 5 days. Now, when this type of crisis happens and the transit times increase, the only way the container shipping line can earn money is to get the container turnaround time bettered. So that means they need to empty the box and get it back for export. So the only way to do it is, if they, instead of giving 21 days, they have to cut it down to something like a 14 days or 10 days. That is the way they can get the box back to freighting. If you look at the way shipping lines operate, the idea is to earn from the box turnaround, not from the detention. Detention is basically, the first part of the word matches with deterrent. Detention is actually a deterrent. They put it so high so that importers return the box immediately, and the box is used for the purpose for which it is built. It is to transport cargo out at sea, not to keep it as storage in a yard in land. That's not the purpose it is designed for.
Another question from Mr. Easwar. Please advise if Turkey shipments from Nigeria gets affected.
Not directly, sir, because Nigeria to Turkey is transit is through Mediterranean from the western side through Gibraltar. Directly transit times may not be affected, but as I said, the freight rates can escalate definitely, because when there is an overall increase, yes.
Right. Is there any improvement on the security in Mediterranean Red Sea route? Any comments on that?
No, not at all. If there was better security, all the lines will pass through. The security which was tried by the US Navy, the Operation Prosperity Guard, despite that there were some attacks. So it is not getting better, sir. That's for sure. It's not getting better. Question from Hitesh Bhai. NVOCC much more as compared to the shipping line? Sorry, sir. I would not have the answer for this. Please.
Million dollar question it is. Huh?
This is always there.
This NVOCC are just blackmailing. If the shipping line is charging maybe $200, $250, $300 per container, NVOCC says $500, $550. Cargo from the same port to the same destination, which is come with different BLs. Shipping line is $200, $250. And the BL which is come through NVOCC, $500. Is there any way that anybody can take up this matter? I mean,
Usman
it's
Bhai
just,
has got a solution for
Everybody
you.
should, everybody should
Just
walk
Hitesh ji,
on
the
it.
best is
it
Hitesh
is
ji,
just plain
stop
and
booking with them.
plain and simple
That's the only
blackmail.
answer.
Plain and
Stop
simple
booking with
blackmail.
them.
Hitesh bhai,
Haji.
I will give you opposite of this also. What will happen? No, there are times when they are half of regular shipping lines. So it's a commercial thing. It's a demand and supply. That's the answer for this. I know of very close friends who are in NVOCC. There are times when they are waiting with boxes and there is no export cargo, so they're waiting. So it's a commercial game. It's just about demand and supply. When there is demand, they will just pick up. At the same time, if you are getting half the freight in main shipping line, I think you should change to main shipping line. That's the only way I see it, sir.
When the cargo is already on the water and it is reaching the port of destination, is just plain and simple blackmailing, taking advantage of the situation and blackmailing. Nothing can be done.
Mr. Usman, any quick comments?
Yes, sir. What I was saying to Hitesh ji, stop booking with them. There is no, but unfortunately, it's not only the NVOCCs. Even the liners are doing the same thing. If you have recently booked any containers out of Ethiopia, Djibouti, or Sudan, either they are saying the vessel has been cancelled or there's a new surcharge. And because we have booked something in December, but the vessel is booked for January, they are already charging us for January, which was not announced when they gave us a declaration in December. But now from January 1st, they say no. Now this is a situation. We have $500 CAC charge, this surcharge, that surcharge. So it's either NVOCC or the shipping line. They're doing the same thing. So now it's time for them to make fortune again, I would say.
Usman bhai, I would like to just add something to what you said now. See what I already told, why charges are being increased. I'm not justifying the quantum, but there is a reason. If you look at it, just at a business point of view, if the ship is going around the Cape and there is an increased transit time, causing increased fuel rates, increased insurance, increased box turnaround time, there is a cost to all this. So it has to be passed on to someone, and that someone was you and me. So there is no choice. Only thing, instead of passing on just the actual 300, they may pass on 500. That's the challenge. I agree partially to what you're telling.
Yes, please.
See, what as a traders, as we are, or many other companies, they would agree with me. We are always selling forward sales. Okay. And shipping line used to give us 3 months forward freights. That's how we were doing our costings and selling. Now even they are giving 1 month freights, but they are changing within between the, if the booking is still there, either they will cancel it, either they will short ship, they will say your container will be shut down, now it will go on the next vessel. So I'm sorry, but shipping lines are also playing as well as NVOCCs. And end of the day, we traders are suffering because we already have committed with buyers. If I can go back to my buyer and ask, sorry, the freight has increased, I cannot honor my contract, I'm in a default.
True,
So that's I think nobody can answer this, what shipping lines are doing, or what shipping lines or NVOC, anyone. We are just getting hit by the banks, by the shipping lines, by the local suppliers sometimes, and sometimes with the buyer's side also. So that's part of a business, I guess.
Yeah, part of the business, but at the same time, what happens? There are two things. Like some commodity like soybean, a $30 per metric ton freight increase will wipe out the whole margin. So it's just a $550, $600 commodity, and $30 is a big number. So that's a challenge. Second thing is some of the well-informed big companies, the Chinese state-owned companies, I'm sure they will understand this problem. The big traders, trading outfits should represent this issue, because I'm sure these are state-owned entities and they will understand these problems, and commercially something could be negotiated. Just a thought. At your kind of operational size, I'm sure you can negotiate something commercially.
So depends observation in view of Competition Commission ruling, the tariffs are not regulated by anyone. Then is it going to continue for a long time in view of increased digitization? 'Cause this is a question, right? Like, when would it end, or when probably, are we going to, how long is this going to last is a question, because for many of the raw materials, this is a cost increase at the initial end. So this is going to also have an inflationary impact, so we all thought like 2023, we saw the peak of inflation. But I think, all these kind of small little things, are going to push up the inflation, or at least, or make them stay where they are. So especially in terms of essentials. So any other comments, any other observations, any other personal experience sharing? We are open, maybe.
Like something like what Usman Bhai shared, it's a good input. He's giving from Ethiopia, they're already charging surcharges. So you can understand, these are all just coming. It just started yesterday, the first surcharge, and we already have it from Usman Bhai. It's there from Ethiopia. The fear is that we'll hear this in the next week from other origins also. The only hope and prayer is that, this problem comes to an end with some kind of amicable discussions, which is again political. I don't think me or anybody in this forum would have a view into this.
We can only wish.
Absolutely. Wish and pray.
Mr. Hitesh, please go ahead, sir.
Mr. Rangarajan, out of your experience, is there any international agency or international shipping magnates who control such things, who possibly can find some solution? I mean, the politicians are not interested. They are interested only in their vote bank, and so many countries in the next 2, 3, 4 months are running elections. But is there any international maritime agencies or anything which can at least come forward with some solution? Like, for example, every ship which is passing, you have a fleet of gunmen over there. I don't know. I mean, something has to be done. Or every ship which is passing would have a helicopter flying on top of the ship. I don't know. I'm new to all this, but with your experience, I'm sure you can throw some light on this.
Actually, somebody on the chat already has given, Mr. Dipen has already given, he says the UN can possibly the only agency which can interfere. Even IMO cannot interfere. Over to you, Mr. Rangaraj.
It was interesting, the solution which you gave, armed guards and helicopters. This solution was already in place for pirates, because pirates were fewer in number and they were not, so mighty. For tackling pirates, the ships used to carry armed guards. We put armed guards on several ships, and ships have traversed safely, through piracy-infested areas. But in this case, the Operation Prosperity Guard, which was tried by the US Navy, failed because they underestimated the attacks to some small, one-odd firing. These were targeted drone attacks with support of some countries also. I would not like to dwell into that, but without naming, I'm telling, some countries are backing these attacks so that they can control Israel and bring it to a negotiation. So it is not so easy that you send an helicopter or a few gunmen. The problem is much bigger than that. This has been tried and this has already failed. Some vessels were attacked even with this kind of an escorting. That is why ships got diverted. That's the reality. But regarding a question about any one person controlling, if I come to know, I will start a shipping line, sir.
Mr. Dipen, would you like to speak?
Yeah, so I attended a conference last week. So wherein, this was a typical question asked by all the trade and everything. So as per the international laws, IMO, which controls the maritime, fraternity, we can say. So since this is qualified under a conflict between two countries or two nations, and it's more like a geopolitical, IMO cannot interfere. It is only the United Nations who can, in whatever capacity they have, they will be the right institution or organization to resolve this.
Yeah, Deepan bhai, I agree with what you're telling. Just to brief, IMO is not a body which can control. IMO does not control commercial activities. IMO is
Yes.
there to govern how ships run technically, ship building, ship rules, how is the safety and security on the ship. These are governed by IMO, of course, supported by the member nations. There are like 180 nations, including India. So these nations, they come together every year. There are forums to do this, and there are international regulations. Even those regulations have to be implemented in the individual parliaments and passed. And then there are regulations which are very similar in all countries, and there are IMO conventions. But all these are only for the purpose of technical running, safety and security of the ship. But there is nothing to talk about controlling freight or controlling the movement of containers. That is not the purpose of IMO. The only body, UN also, if you see, UN is again a facilitator. Like Srivats is facilitating this discussion, but Srivats cannot control price of cashew. He can tell you what today. He was kind enough to put this forum to tell you that Red Sea is there and let us all discuss. It's like that. UN is also a facilitating body. They cannot control. It's up to the big nations like US, Israel. They have to come up. How they can tackle this, whatever diplomatic methods, and that's the only way this can be solved. Maybe just a wild thought that all countries impacted by this can sort of represent African countries and India, Turkey. These countries governments can take this up as an issue, just to advise some kind of pacifying, so that our trade doesn't get affected. But at the end of the day, what will happen if you take a country like India? If our exports are cut down, directly it is going to take a dent on our GDP. Our foreign reserves are going to be depleted. So it's in the interest of the nation, because it's a huge money. As I told you, 200 billion worth cargo already diverted. You're talking of huge numbers. So I'm sure maybe some of these forums, the associations can write some letters or representations to the government. This is just a loud thought. If somebody has anything like this, maybe we can voice our ideas. That'd be good.
Thank you very much. If there are any more questions, please do raise your hands. In the meanwhile, from Bala Maman, who wanted to know again, what is the impact of Nigeria to Turkey, as mentioned by Mr. Rangarajan, that route is clean. However, there could be slight time delay, and as an impact of what is going on, there could be a slight increase in the rate possible. But as of now, it is not directly affected by what's going on in the Red Sea, because it is not in that route. That is the answer which he had given earlier. Somebody has asked about, can you give a summary at the end of this in Hindi or Urdu? I'll try in Hindi, maybe at the end of it. Yeah. Any more questions? We have maybe about another 5 minutes. If you have exhausted all the questions, or sharing your experience, we can. 5 more minutes, and then we can keep the session open for networking. Formal session will get completed. If there are any more questions.
Because do you have anybody on ground from Sudan? You may have better information. Like Usman Bhai gave about Ethiopia. Do you have anybody who's in Sudan or operating hands on Sudan? I know Hitesh Bhai knows a bit, but anybody else we can get inputs. It will be nice to know what is happening there.
Yeah, that's an open call. Anyone from Sudan or operating out of Sudan, Port Sudan, your experience would be very useful. For that matter, anybody from even Turkey and Egypt, which are other two countries which might.
Do you have Jubi by any chance? He's quite.
No, Jubin is not there. He's not there. He is registered, but he has not joined. I don't know.
Okay. He's quite hands down in Sudan.
Yeah, actually, over 200. Same. Yeah, okay, Usman. Yeah, Usman, please go ahead. Yeah, I can share. Yeah.
See, it's we are facing same situation. I had some shipments out of Sudan in last week of December, which has been delayed, as they are saying the vessel has been called off to come to Port Sudan. And now we are waiting when the next vessel will be. Nobody can give answer. Maybe it's end of Jan, early February. No news. Today morning, I was getting some news from shipping, and as I was discussing directly with the shipping line in Ethiopia. MSC has not called up any vessel, but PIL, CMA, Maersk Line, and Hapag-Lloyd have said no shipment will come in January, either in this part of the world, like this Red Sea route. They will not come. They have either stopped in Jeddah or maybe some other transshipment port. They're not coming. So that's one situation which is quite can be hiking more prices. There will be some panic, even some shipments coming out of Russia. So I was explaining about Ethiopia. Same, Sudan is a similar situation. Like I was talking with the shipping in Ethiopia today morning. I had some bookings with CMA and MSC and PIL. They all have informed that only MSC has not called up the vessels, but all other lines said during January we may not have any vessels coming to this route. So Sudan will be no different.
So Sudan and Ethiopia, most of the shipping lines, they are not calling in January.
Yes, this is as per my news. Maybe I can be wrong.
Okay. So that answers one question. We will not go commodity wise because it doesn't matter. As explained by Mr. Usman, Ethiopia as well as Sudan, all major shipping lines are not going to call on in January. That's unfortunately the situation as it stands. So any more questions? I think we have nearly exhausted all the questions. Right. Maybe as we wait for the one more question or requesting Mr. Rangarajan to summarize, let me just try to summarize what has happened so far in Hindi. आज का ये जो विषय था रेड सी में जो हो रहा है उसका शिपिंग के ऊपर क्या असर हो सकता है, जो एशिया से नॉर्थ अमेरिका और नॉर्दर्न यूरोप शिपिंग लाइन्स जो जा रही है, पहले 40-45 डेज ले रही थी, अभी 60-65 डेज हो सकता है, 10 से 11 दिन का फर्क हो सकता है, क्योंकि वो अभी अफ्रीका घुमा के जाने का है। और इसके या तो इसके चलते टाइम डिले हो सकती है और फ्रेट में भी ज़्यादा फर्क हो सकता है। या तो इसके वजह से वो जो एशिया से नॉर्दर्न यूरोप जा रही है शिपमेंट और जाने वाले आगे, उसमें काफ़ी हद तक डिले हो सकता है और फ्रेट कॉस्ट भी और सरचार्जेस बढ़ सकती है। फिलहाल में अभी जो इथियोपिया और सूडान से जो एक्सपोर्ट ये महीने का जो भी शिपिंग आने वाला है, वो सभी रद्द किया गया है रेड सी का डेवलपमेंट के कारण। देन इजिप्ट, टर्की, इजराइल, इनको जाने वाले कार्गोस और शिपिंग, उसमें भी डिले हो सकता है और उनका भी फ्रेट रेट ज़्यादा हो सकता है। थैंक यू। I think we have exhausted all the questions. Let me see if there are any questions. Yeah, I think we have exhausted all the questions. Mr. Rangarajan, any final comments, suggestions? Your suggestions, earlier suggestion, I really liked it. If some shipping line is offering you services and please go ahead and pre-book. That's a very good suggestion. If you would like to summarize and give us some pointers how we can deal with this kind of a situation.
Right. See, as I said, transit time, just to summarize, transit time from East and West Africa will not be majorly impacted. There could be minimal impacts in transshipment port, but there will not be major impact directly in terms of transit time. If you look at places like Ethiopia, Sudan, transit time will be big time impacted. Same goes for Turkey also. For Turkey, India-Turkey hull Sesame or India-Europe hull Sesame, these are things which will get impacted, big time impact. This will be. If you talk of freight rates increase to Turkey, Egypt, the freight rates will be higher from India. For the other roads, particularly East Africa, West Africa, as I already mentioned, there is one shipping line which has already put a surcharge of $500 per TEU. Now, other shipping lines also could follow suit in the near future if the problem continues. So we are looking at a freight increase, definitely. That's the immediate thing which is visible. In terms of solutions, this forum I don't think has any control. We'll have to sort of, as you said, wish and pray that this problem has an end in a diplomatic manner. From our side, probably all the associations, the national level associations, can put up to the governments that this impact is having a effect on our commercial numbers, and it will have a effect on the country's exports also. So maybe through diplomatic channels, they can just send some representations to sort of bring the parties to some kind of diplomatic discussions. That's what comes to my mind. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to discuss this, and we heard some fantastic views from this forum, and looking forward to meet all of your team and many in this forum in Cambodia very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Rangarajan. This was a very interesting conversation on a very special and very urgent topic. You have made it so insightful. You have put in a lot of efforts to cull in maximum information. I also thank all the panelists for your time. Special thanks to all those people who had shared their understanding of the markets or their specific market information. Usman Bhai, Mr. Ramurthy, and then we have Mr. Dipen sharing, thank you so much. This is what makes the entire webinar very interesting. Hitesh Bhai, so thank you so much. We will keep the session open for another 5 minutes for networking. Continue networking. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Rangarajan. It was really a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.